When Jace crash lands on an alien world, he never expected to be swept into a cosmic game of desire, duty, and power. Sylvara, a stunning priestess with glowing sapphire skin, has a proposal that could change everything. But as the countdown to an ancient ritual begins, Jace is faced with a choice: bond with her to save her world, or walk away and let the planet fall. If you loved this intergalactic adventure, hit that like button and subscribe for more thrilling sci-fi tales. What do you think about Jace and Sylvara's intense connection? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to turn on notifications so you won't miss the next chapter of their cosmic journey. The escape pod roared like a wounded beast, its hull blazing crimson as it tore through Lumora's atmosphere. Jace wrestled the controls, sweat slicking his brow, his flight suit clinging to his chest. "Hang in there, sweetheart," he growled at the pod. "Don't quit on me now." Alarms shrieked, the viewport a blur of indigo flames, and a metallic groan rattled his bones. "Warning! Impact imminent," the pod's AI droned, its voice maddeningly calm. "Yeah, genius, I noticed." Jace snapped, bracing himself. "Here we go." The pod slammed into a field, shattering iridescent ferns that burst into clouds of amethyst mist, swirling under a sky kissed by 3 molten moons. The hull screeched, skidding through luminescent moss before lurching to a stop, tangled in vines that pulsed with a sultry, violet glow. The air thrummed with an electric hum, heavy with the scent of alien nectar, sweet and heady, like a lover's breath. Jace coughed, his ribs screaming as he kicked the hatch open. "Ow!" Still kicking. "That's something." He stumbled out, his suit torn at the shoulder, revealing a glimpse of taut muscle. "Let's see what kind of party I crashed." The moons bathed the landscape in a silver sheen, illuminating spires of obsidian crystal that rose like sculpted bodies, their curves catching the light in a dance of shadow and gleam. Vines slithered across the ground, their tips glowing as if aroused by the night. A low, seductive hum grew, a fleet of sleek drones, their surfaces etched with runes that pulsed like heartbeats, gliding toward him with predatory grace. Jace gripped his blaster, his stance wide. "All right, who's out here? I'm not in the mood for hide and seek." A drone hovered close, its runes flaring crimson. A hologram flickered to life. A woman with sapphire skin that shimmered like wet silk, her white hair cascading in waves that begged to be touched. Her eyes, twin pools of violet fire, locked onto his, and her lips, full, glistening, curved in a smile that sent a jolt through his core. Starfallen, her voice purred, low and warm, wrapping around him like velvet. "You are safe. I am Sylvara, priestess of Lumora." Her image was a vision of desire, her silver robe clinging to every curve, its fabric so sheer it teased the outline of her form. The hologram flickered, and for a moment, Jace swore he caught a glimpse of her hips swaying, as if the projection itself wanted to tempt him closer. Jace swallowed, his throat dry. "Starfallen? Babe, I just crashed. You always greet strangers looking like that." Her laugh was a soft, musical ripple, and her eyes sparkled with mischief, the runes on the drone pulsing faster, as if mirroring her pulse. "You intrigue me, human," Sylvara said, her voice dipping to a husky whisper. "Your fire calls to me." "Fire, huh?" Jace grinned, holstering his blaster, his torn suit pulling tight across his chest. "Guess I'm bringing the heat. What's with the drones? You planning to whisk me off, or just show off?" "They protect you," she said, her hologram stepping closer, the illusion so vivid he could almost feel her warmth. "Will you come to me, Jace?" Her words hung in the air, heavy with promise, and the vines at his feet seemed to curl toward him, their glow intensifying, as if Lumora itself urged him to say yes. "Not like I've got a date elsewhere," he said, his voice rougher than he meant. "But those drones better not get handsy." Scouts in silver exosuits emerged, their movements fluid, almost sensual, like dancers in a forbidden ritual. One, marked with a crescent insignia, raised a device that sprayed a warm mist over Jace's cuts, the sensation tingling across his skin like a lover's touch. The air shimmered with floating motes of light, each one pulsing in rhythm with the drone's hum, casting a glow that made the field feel alive, hungry. "Nice trick," Jace said, flexing his arm as the mist eased his pain, his suit pulling tighter against his frame. "This your idea of first aid? Or are you just trying to get me out of this suit?" The scout's mandibles twitched, a soft click escaping. "You jest. The priestess will enjoy that." "Enjoy, huh?" Jace raised a brow. Climbing into the hovercraft, they gestured to. Its interior was sleek, warm, the seats molded to cradle him like an embrace, their surfaces glowing with a faint, teasing pulse. "So, this Sylvara, she always scoop up pilots looking like they just rolled out a wreck." "Only those who ignite her," the scout said, its voice a low hum. "She saw you in the astral stream. Your presence burns." "Burns? Damn, I'm flattered," Jace said, leaning back as the hovercraft lifted off. "Take me to her, then. But if this is a trap, I'm not going down without a fight." The craft soared over the field, the obsidian spires below glinting like polished skin under the moon's caress. The city loomed ahead, a skyline of towers that curved and swayed, their surfaces rippling like liquid desire, beckoning Jace into a world that pulsed with secrets and seduction. The hovercraft purred, slicing through Lumora's twilight like a blade through silk. Its interior glowed with a sultry amber pulse, the seats molding to Jace's frame, their warmth teasing through his torn flight suit. Outside, a city of sinuous towers loomed, their surfaces rippling like liquid obsidian, each curve catching the triple moonlight in a dance of shadow and desire. Tendrils of bioluminescent ivy clung to their spires, throbbing with a rhythm that felt alive, hungry. Jace leaned back, eyeing the scout with the crescent insignia. "So, this priestess of yours," he said, his voice low, teasing. "She always send fancy rides for guys who crash her planet." The scout's mandibles twitched, its voice a velvet buzz. "Only those who set her aflame. You are rare." "Rare, huh?" Jace grinned, his suit pulling tight across his chest, a tear exposing a glimpse of hard muscle. "Guess I'm a catch of the day. What's her deal? Queen? Goddess? Or just too hot for this galaxy?" "Sylvara is Lumora's heart," the scout said, its eyes glinting. "Her bond keeps our world alive. You've sparked her." "Sparked her?" Jace raised a brow, leaning forward, his tone dripping with mischief. "Sounds like I'm trouble." "She into trouble? You will see," the scout said, a hint of amusement in its buzz. "Prepare yourself." The craft slowed, landing at a temple sculpted from moonstone, its arches pulsing with a warm, coral glow. The air was thick with the scent of alien orchids, sweet and intoxicating, curling around Jace like a lover's whisper. A corridor stretched ahead, its walls inlaid with mosaics of swirling comets, their trails shimmering as if beckoning him deeper. Jace stepped out, his boots scuffing the polished floor. "All right, let's meet this fire starter." At the corridor's end stood Sylvara, her sapphire skin gleaming like polished cobalt, catching the temple's glow in a way that made his breath hitch. Her silver robe was a second skin, clinging to every curve, its sheer fabric teasing the outline of her hips and waist, gemstones at her shoulders sparkling like drops of starfire. Her white hair spilled over one shoulder, a cascade that begged to be tangled in fingers, and her eyes, violet, flecked with cosmic embers, locked onto his with a heat that felt like a touch. Jace swallowed, his pulse kicking up. "Damn, you're not just real, you're a knockout." Sylvara's lips curved, a slow, sultry smile that sent a shiver down his spine. Her voice was a low purr, wrapping around him like smoke. "And you're bolder than the astral stream showed, Jace." "I like bold. Bold's my specialty," he said, stepping closer, ignoring the dirt streaking his suit, the tear at his shoulder bearing more skin. "Name's Jace, but you can call me whatever gets your glow going." Her laugh was a soft, throaty ripple, and her cheeks darkened, a Lumoran blush like twilight deepening on her skin, making his fingers itch to trace it. The mosaics behind her pulsed faster, as if the temple itself felt her heat. "I'm Sylvara, guardian of Lumora's soul bond," she said, her eyes never leaving his. You've stirred me, Jace. Stirred you. Jace tilted his head, his grin wicked. Babe, you're gonna have to spell that out. What a guy like me stirring in a goddess like you? She stepped closer, the air between them crackling, heavy with the scent of orchids and something deeper, primal. Her robe shifted, revealing a sliver of glowing skin at her collarbone, and the temple's glow seemed to bend around her, framing her like a vision crafted to tempt. When I saw you in the stream, my body knew you, she said, her voice husky, trembling with urgency. It's instinct, a fire I can't quench. You're the first to ignite it. Jace crossed his arms, his suit pulling taut, his grin fading to raw curiosity. So, I'm your cosmic match? That's a hell of a pickup line. What's this soul bond got to do with it? Her glow flared, casting soft shadows that danced across the walls, and her fingers twitched as if fighting the urge to reach for him. The moment felt charged, like a storm about to break, the temple humming with anticipation. I need you, she said, her words raw, almost a plea. Our kind bonds with a chosen mate to renew Lumora's pulse. Without it, I weaken, and our world fades. My body craves you. Jace exhaled, running a hand through his hair, his eyes tracing her form. Craves, huh? You're not making this easy, Sylvara. You're saying I've got to lock souls with you to save the planet? That's one hell of a first date. She bit her lip, her eyes wide, vulnerable yet burning with need. The comets in the mosaics seemed to swirl faster, mirroring the tension in her stance, her robe clinging tighter as she shifted, every movement a silent invitation. Only if you want me, she whispered, stepping so close he could feel her warmth. I won't force you, Jace, but I feel you here. Her hand hovered over his chest, not touching, but the air between them sparked, electric. Jace's throat tightened, his voice rough. You're playing with fire, Priestess. Why me? You got a whole planet of glowing studs, right? They don't burn like you, she said, her eyes searing into his. I saw you, felt you, across the stars. My body chose you before I could. Her words hung heavy, the temples hummed deepening, as if urging him to close the gap. The air was thick, alive with the promise of something wild, untamed. All right, Sylvara, he said, his voice low, steady despite the heat in his gut. I'm not signing up yet, but you've got my attention. Where do we go from here? She smiled, her glow flaring like a supernova, and gestured to a chamber door, its surface carved with runes that pulsed like heartbeats, inviting them into a dance of fate and fire. The chamber door sealed with a sultry hiss, its surface carved with runes that pulsed like veins under skin. A velvet AI voice purred, sanctum-locked. 6 hours until moonrise. Begin bonding. Jace spun on his heel, his torn flight suit clinging to his sweat-damp frame, a tear at his chest bearing a glimpse of taut muscle. He scanned the room, his lips curling. Well, damn. This place screams get cozy. You call this a sanctum or a galactic honeymoon suite? Sylvara stood at the chamber's heart, her sapphire skin glowing like molten cobalt, her silver robe so sheer it teased every curve, catching the light in a way that made his blood hum. She shifted, the fabric slipping to reveal a hint of her thigh, and her eyes, violet embers, burned with a hunger that matched his own. The air was thick, heavy with the scent of alien jasmine, curling around them like a lover's sigh. She bit her lip, her glow flickering with nerves and need. I didn't design it, she said, her voice a husky whisper that sent a jolt through him. It's ancient, built for the soul bond. It pulls you in. At the center, a platform draped in velvet petals shimmered, their crimson tips pulsing as if alive, inviting them to sink into their embrace. Floating lanterns hovered, casting a ruby glow that danced across the walls, each flicker syncing with the chamber's low, primal hum. The space felt alive, urging them closer, its energy a heartbeat that begged to be matched. Jay stepped forward, his grin wicked. Pulls you in, huh? Sounds like this place wants us to get real friendly. So, Priestess, what's the play? We lock souls, or you got something spicier in mind? Her laugh was low, throaty, and her cheeks darkened, a Lumoran blush that made his fingers itch to trace her skin. She moved onto the platform, her hips swaying, the robe clinging tighter with every step, a silent promise woven into her grace. "The bond is everything," she said, her eyes locked on his, searing. "When I saw you, my body craved you, Jace. It's a fire I can't fight. You're the only one who burns like this." "Burns, huh?" Jace said, his voice rough, stepping onto the platform. "Babe, you're preaching to the choir. But bonding? That's a big ask for a guy who's still got crash dust on him." Her glow flared, casting shadows that danced like lovers on the walls. She reached out, her fingers hovering over his chest, the air between them sparking with heat. "It's more than want," she whispered. "It's need. My body, my world, they ache for you. Will you give yourself to me?" Jace's throat tightened, his pulse hammering. "You're not playing fair, Sylvara. All right, I'm in. But if this gets too wild, don't blame me for keeping up." Her smile was pure temptation, and she guided his hands to her temples, her skin warm, electric under his touch. The petals beneath them seemed to sigh, their crimson tips curling upward, and the lanterns pulsed faster, bathing them in a glow that felt like desire made light. "Close your eyes," she murmured, her breath hot against his cheek. "Let me feel you." Jace smirked, leaning closer. "Feel away, Priestess. I'm an open book." Their minds collided, a torrent of heat and memory. Sylvara's thoughts poured in, a temple ablaze, her body trembling under the weight of duty, a loneliness that clawed at her core. Jace's memories surged back, dogfights in neon-lit voids, the rush of a lover's touch in a stolen moment, the ache of a crew lost. The bond was raw, electric like a circuit fused in fire, their pulses sinking in a rhythm that shook the air. "Jace," Sylvara gasped, her voice trembling in his mind, her body leaning into his. "You're consuming me." "Consuming's good, right?" he teased, but his voice cracked as her desire flooded him, a hunger so fierce it made his skin burn. Suddenly, a cold shadow sliced through their bond. Kaler, the Lumoran noble, his presence like a blade of ice. "This human filth cannot claim you," his voice snarled in their minds. "You disgrace Lumora, Sylvara." Jace's jaw clenched, his hands tightening on her. "Get lost, creep. She's mine right now." "Kaler," Sylvara hissed, her mental voice sharp but strained. "You have no power here." He laughed, a sound like splintering glass. "You'll fail, Priestess. Your world will wither." The lanterns dimmed, their ruby light stuttering, and the runes flickered, the bond teetering on collapse. Sylvara's glow faded, her body trembling against Jace's. "He's breaking us," she whispered, her eyes wide with fear. "Or what if I'm not enough?" Her vulnerability hit him like a punch, the petals stilling, the air heavy with doubt. The chamber seemed to hold its breath, waiting for him to answer. Jace slid a hand to her cheek, his thumb brushing her lip, his voice low. "You're more than enough, Sylvara. Kaler's just scared of what we've got. Let's show him how hot this fire burns." Her glow sparked, her eyes blazing with renewed need. She pressed closer, her fingers digging into his arms, the heat of her body a promise against his. "Again," she breathed. "Deeper. Now." "Deeper's my kind of word," Jace growled, his grin feral as they dove back in. Their minds fused, fiercer this time. Jace pushed Kaler's shadow away, flooding the bond with raw human heat. Nights of laughter in dive bars, the thrill of a lover's nails on his back, the stubborn will to fight. Sylvara's strength roared back, her voice calming a riot, her body standing defiant against the storm. Their desires tangled, a wildfire of want and trust that burned Kaler's eyes to nothing. Sylvara moaned, her glow erupting like a starburst, her body arching against his. "Jace, I feel you everywhere. Takes one to know one," he rasped, their foreheads pressed together, the bond a living flame between them. The runes blazed, flooding the chamber with scarlet light. The lanterns spun, their glow pulsing in time with their ragged breaths, and the petals curled around them, as if claiming them in victory. The air thrummed with triumph, thick with the scent of their shared heat. The AI purred, its voice almost smug. Bonding complete. Harmony restored. Sanctum unlocked. Sylvara collapsed against him, her laugh shaky, her glow brighter than the moon's. We did it, Jace. Lumora's alive. Because of you. Her body melted into his, her warmth seeping through his suit, the petals cradling them like a lover's bed. The chamber softened to a crimson haze, as if reluctant to let them go. Told you I bring the heat, Jace said, his fingers tangling in her hair, his voice rough with something deeper than pride. You good, Firestarter? I'm burning, she whispered, her eyes locked on his, shimmering with need and gratitude. Her hand slid to his chest, lingering, and the bond still hummed between them, a promise of more to come. The sanctum's crimson haze softened as dawn's first rays pierced a skylight of iridescent crystal, casting molten gold across the platform. Sylvara pressed against Jace, her sapphire skin searing against his bare chest, the velvet petals beneath them still pulsing faintly, as if reluctant to release their heat. Her silver robe had slipped, bearing a shoulder that glowed like a promise, and the air thrummed with the afterglow of their bond, thick with alien jasmine and desire. Sylvara stirred, her voice a husky murmur. You've saved us, Jace. Lumora's pulse, it's alive again. Jace trailed a finger along her jaw, his torn flight suit barely clinging to his frame, a tear at his thigh revealing hard muscle. Took two to tango, Firestarter, he said, his lips brushing her temple, his voice rough with heat. You're one hell of a partner. Her laugh was low, a sultry ripple that made his blood hum, her glow flaring like a tide under starlight. She shifted, her robe slipping further, teasing the curve of her hip, and her eyes, violet embers, locked onto his, burning with gratitude and a hunger that hadn't faded. I've never felt a bond this consuming, she said, her fingers tracing his chest, lingering on the edge of his torn suit. You've ignited me, Jace. Ignited, huh? Jace grinned, leaning closer, his breath hot against her ear. Babe, you're a walking supernova. So what's next? We keep this fire burning, or do I get a trophy for saving the planet? Before she could answer, a hologram crackled at the platform's edge. Kaler, his emerald exosuit glinting like sharpened jade, his mandibles tight with fury. The sanctum's petals shivered, as if recoiling from his cold presence, and the air grew sharp, slicing through their warmth. This human defile our legacy, Kaler snarled, his voice a venomous hiss. You've shamed Lumora, Sylvara, choosing this beast. Sylvara rose, her robe clinging to every curve, her glow fierce as she faced him. He's my bondmate, Kaler, chosen by my fire. You're nothing to me. Jace stood beside her, his stance wide, his suit pulling tight across his shoulders. Yeah, take a hike, bug boy. She's got better taste than you. Kaler's eyes narrowed, his hologram pulsing with rage, the lanterns flickering erratically, their ruby glow casting jagged shadows. The sanctum seemed to tense, its hum faltering, as if the temple itself rejected him. You'll regret this, Kaler spat. Lumora deserves a true mate, not this filth. True mate, Jace growled, stepping forward, his hand grazing Sylvara's waist, possessive. She's burning for me, pal. Choke on that. Sylvara's fingers laced through his, her touch electric, and a lantern steadied, their glow flaring brighter. Kaler's hologram dissolved with a final, bitter snarl, leaving the sanctum to hum with triumph, the petals curling upward like a lover's caress. Sylvara exhaled, her body relaxing against Jace's. He's gone, she whispered, her voice trembling with relief. You make me fearless. Anytime, gorgeous, Jace said, his hand lingering on her hip, his grin softening. Guys got no game compared to us. Jace's comm buzzed, a harsh chirp that cut through their heat. Rescue team, 5 minutes out. The skylight blazed, dawn painting the walls in hues of amber and coral, a cruel reminder of time slipping away. Sylvara's glow dimmed, her eyes searching his, her body still pressed close. "You're leaving," she said, her voice barely a breath, heavy with longing. "Aren't you?" Jace nodded, his throat tight, his fingers tightening on her. "Yeah, my ride's coming. But this fire we've got, it's not going out." They dressed, her in a flowing robe of silver gossamer that hugged her like a second skin, him in his patched suit, dirt-streaked but worn like a badge of their night. The sanctum door slid open, revealing a landing bay where the temple's spires gleamed like polished pearl, their curves swaying under a sky ablaze with morning fire. Jace stepped into the bay, the dawn's heat kissing his skin. "So, what's the plan, Priestess? You gonna rule this place? Keep the glow going?" Sylvara followed, her robe shimmering with every step, her hips swaying in a way that made his pulse race. "I'll face the council, show them Lumora's alive," she said, her voice steady but soft. "Because of you, I can burn brighter." "Sounds like you'll own that room," Jace said, turning to face her, his eyes tracing her form. "Wish I could see you light it up." Her eyes glistened, like dew catching the dawn, and she stepped closer, her glow wrapping them in a private world. The spires cast soft shadows, framing her like a goddess. Yet her trembling fingers made her achingly real, as if the stars couldn't tear them apart. "Will you come back?" she asked, her voice raw, her hands sliding to his chest, nails grazing his skin through the torn suit. "Not for Lumora. For us." Jace caught her wrist, pulling her close, his other hand cupping her face. "Try keeping me away, Sylvara. Next time, no sanctums, just you, me, and somewhere we can really burn." Her laugh was a shaky, sultry sound, her eyes glassy with unshed tears, but her lips curved in a smile that promised everything. The roar of the approaching shuttle grew louder, its shadow slicing through the dawn's fire. "No promises," she teased, her voice thick with heat, "but I'm holding you to that fire." Their kiss was fierce, hungry, her body melting into his, her fingers digging into his back as if to anchor him. Her warmth seared through him, a vow carved in starfire, and the world faded. Only her, only them. The shuttle's engine screamed, pulling them apart, and Jace stepped back, his heart pounding, his skin still tingling from her touch. "Don't forget me, fire starter," he said, flashing a grin as he backed toward the shuttle, his eyes never leaving hers. "Never," she whispered, her glow flaring like a beacon, fierce and untamed. He boarded, the hatch sealing with a soft thud. Through the viewport, Jace watched Sylvara stand defiant, her gossamer robe billowing in the breeze, ignoring the council aides scurrying toward her. Her eyes stayed locked on the shuttle, burning with a fire that followed him into the stars.